disclaimer that's on the screen at the moment and highlight that what I will discuss and share today is of general advice. Before making any decisions based on this presentation, you should sort of assess your own circumstances or consult a financial planner. We are talking through some case studies today, so to protect the privacy of our clients, we have changed a few of the details and, of course, their names. Older, not much, I'm getting closer to this in my age, in their early 60s, who we've actually called Robyn and Jack for today. They were just sort of moving through life, but were feeling more trapped, a sense of being held and tied down to have to continue to work because they had a mortgage still. And that was really starting to impact Jack's, mental well-being. He was feeling stressed and feeling anxious. What drove them to come and speak to you?
Yeah, so they came to see me on the recommendation of a family member who had received advice, and purely it was to have a look at their options, because their retirement options. Jack, as the slide says there, was feeling trapped in his current situation financially. His work was becoming more difficult. He was getting finding the physical demands of his role, because he wasn't just sitting in a truck. There was up and down fuel tanks and things like that as part of what he was doing.
But even just the stress of driving on the highways and the motorways at the moment, that can't be easy either.
That's right. So, and as he was sort of getting older, or getting closer to retirement, he was starting to think about what that looked like, and they'd never had a look at their situation before and never had a plan before. Still had a mortgage, and you hear, I'm sure they would have gone to barbecues or spoken to friends, and they might be debt free and things like that. And he's thinking, well, I'm not. I'll have to work till age pension and the like. And then it was just all sort of building up to a point of feeling like he's trapped, and there's sort of little way out, essentially.
Yeah, and I think too also that barbecue talk is also talking about how interest rates keep going up on us. So that would have just been compounding and adding to, to those stress levels. What was their financial position when they came to see you?
Yeah, so as we can see here, they've got money in superannuation. So they had been making some contributions on the way, and obviously they've been working for a long time there. And income's looking okay. There's some mortgage, some credit card debt. Their cost of living was effectively, after their mortgage repayments, they were probably spending around the $80,000 mark. And again, without having a look at what that means or where that's going, like a lot of people, you're just working, getting through the day-to-day pressures of life, and we're doing what we can.
Yeah, and with the $120,000 mortgage, though, and those interest rates going up, it would have been eating into a huge chunk of their income, which makes it hard to, as I can see on the screen there, the number one goal, I want to retire. How do I make that possible? What other things were they wanting to do with their life? This is why we all work, what is it they were looking at else to do?
So primarily it was seeing if they could retire, and that was brought upon because they weren't enjoying what they were doing, and particularly Jack wasn't enjoying what he was doing, and feeling like that he would have to sell the house to be able to repay their debt and try to downsize somewhere. And they lived regionally, so the options for downsizing was actually quite slim. They, like a lot of people, wanted to enjoy retirement and do some travel, but they just had that thought that this wouldn't be available to them.
And we're all like it. They've worked so hard. They've worked all their lives to have this home, their castle, and to think that they may have to sell it and downsize to fund to retire is absolutely heartbreaking. So what was their future going to look like if they hadn't come to speak to you?
So on the chart, the next chart here, we can see that there's a shortfall. So as it's got here, the current cost of living $80,000 per annum now. This is not a figure that they had come in and said, yeah, we're spending 80,000. It was working back to identify the their income coming in, less the mortgage and what's left and where that's going. Because as we say here, most people know how much they earn, but they don't know with the same degree of accuracy what they spend.
No.
So it's facing into that. Once we identified where that's currently at, to plot this chart out, this looks at if they retired now, and the first green bar is quite large. They're due to being able to pay off the mortgage. Then using the superannuation to fund their cost of living. Again, the $80,000 there, it won't last them through to their life expectancies. So it would be run out mid 70s. So they'd be dropping from $80,000 down to the full age pension in this scenario, which is a big change.
And again, it's that huge change to life. That is the difference in having to cut your hair at home and or going and getting it cut. It's those simple things, but it's those things that is what we live for and what we worked so hard for. So what did you do? What was the first thing you had them look at?
So speak a lot about budget and cost of living, and it's not the most exciting element to go through, but it's the most relevant element to go through when you're planning for your future, is to understand what I'm wanting to do and what's that going to cost me, and what I'm currently doing and what's that costing me. So having a look at what does the $80,000 a year cost of living mean for them? What does it look like if we're able to trim some of those expenses to be able to do what's achievable, and sustain a cost of living? Basically, for these guys, it was one of a couple of options to make that chart look better. It's working longer. Now, as we've
That's
discussed,
hard.
that's not an option that we're wanting to
Mm.
really entertain. Or it's reducing our cost of living. So that's where we needed to start, with these guys, is to look at, can we reduce from the 80,000, and what's a level that we can reduce that we're going to be able to sustain and not bounce back.
Yeah. And I can imagine this was a really confronting slide to see. I can't take my eyes off where the blue chart of the assets drops. And if I'm looking at it correctly, it's at about 76. That is so early. And given that Jack was already quite anxious about it, I can imagine it was conjuring up the absolute worst. So it obviously did keep them very focused that if I do want to change this position, I'm going to need to take some action now.
Yep.
So what did they do?
So we looked at ways to reduce their cost of living, to a more sustainable level. And in this case, it was dropping their spend from the 80 to more around $60,000 per year, which they felt that they could still do what they wanted to do and have some fun, with this scenario. So we're paying the mortgage off. So we're looking at retiring, we're paying the mortgage off, and we are then able to, in this chart here, sustain our income for beyond statistical life expectancy. So that gives
Amazing.
a lot more financial confidence, for people, and being able to see where, the long-term benefits of taking action now, was quite powerful for Jack and Robyn in this
It,
instance. Yeah.
it's having you at control. You are actually the person in control of being able to achieve these goals. What else happened in this scenario? How did Jack feel about this?
He didn't retire.
Love
So
it.
ultimately, he didn't retire. But what they got out of this was confidence, and the feeling that, well, not only the feeling, but the fact that they're now in control. And we see that with a lot of people that come in and go through a similar process, to never have really looked at this before, never really thought what options I might have, to then know where I'm tracking, know what's achievable, and the clients that will retire with confidence are the ones that have a plan in place, because they know where things are at and what's achievable and what options there are. And when you take that worry off the table that it's all doom and gloom, or I don't know how it's going, your mindset shifts significantly. So for Jack here, whilst he was wanting to retire, he felt those, the anxiety around being trapped and the financial future was no good. He decided, well, I might continue working with the knowledge that I can retire, but I can also see some benefits of continuing to work, because I want to, not necessarily because I feel that I have to. So
that
it
power switch shift in that I'm controlling what I get to do, to get up every morning and to think, if I don't want to work after today, I don't have to, because I have that plan in place.
Yeah. And for other people in similar circumstances, it can result in, okay, well, I don't like what I'm doing now, but I might go part-time. I might look for another job somewhere else casually. The amount of people that come in and tell us they're going to work at Bunnings is immense.
The office work for me. I love
Yeah,
stationery, but
it just gives you options. And that's the key with any financial plan, is not only identifying where you're at, but what options do we have, and helping people make better decisions.
And I think in both these case studies, Luke, with Liz and Henry and Rob, they're slightly different in that one was sort of being, forced into maybe some harder choices in order to be able to purchase a home. Both sets of couples didn't have that certainty or that confidence because they had no plan in place. But by spending some time with you, getting that plan in place, they're now empowered, they're in control of their future. It's on them. They do need to make and lean into some of those hard choices. But in both cases, they were sort of some short-term pain for just such huge life-changing outcomes.
Absolutely. And as I said, the feeling that both clients and many other clients that go through this process have is that sense of being in control. And you're not them worrying about what's to come or where it's going to be, or how you're tracking, and that the things that you're putting in place now, there's a plan in place. There's a reason for doing the things we're doing, and that's to achieve our goals down the track.
Well, I know you're not the fun police, but I think I'm actually going to take a leaf out of both their books today and what you got them to do, and go and check how many streaming services I've got, how much Spotify accounts I've got, and have a hard look and see where maybe I can even trim back a little bit. Thank you so much, Luke. Really appreciate you sharing those stories with me.
No worries. Thanks, Kit.